In your experience, what does it take in terms of, well, the way that I see it is the presenters would have to understand that need. And I'm sure you kind of have to face that too here in the American church. How did you communicate to them? Listen, we need this. We need a prayer movement. I mean, the prayer movement is going to fuel the missions movement. How did you communicate that? Because the sense that I get is that the theology that's run rampant there is actually the opposite. It's I feel that the church, I'm generally speaking, has been under the health and wealth prosperity message.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of like that thing. It's very self-centered, and so how did you, in your experience, how do you see prayer movements kind of making that shift? And how, because in my human understanding, there has to be a shift so that the prayer movement come in, or is it the prayer movement comes in and that shift occurs simultaneously?
I would say this. People look at the call. 400,000 showed up for 12 hours to fast and pray. How did that happen? Well, for 6 years, we traveled all across America, and we just got kids with the Nazarite message and fasting and prayer. And what I'm finding is the kids are sick to the teeth of the prosperity. They want something real. And if somebody comes along and see, I've said this, Hitler gave articulation to what was secretly being groaned in the masses. And when he gave his articulation, the masses moved for it.
They responded.
They responded because somebody had tapped into their cry.
The inward thing.
The inward deal. It's not like you're going to try to change some man, some woman has to have the sound that's already been birthed inside of them. And then they loose it and God sends fire in it. I don't know what happened to it. And I don't say this in a boasting way, but I've fasted for 20 years. And when I began to preach this message of fasting and prayer, and I told those kids, you don't come, we don't tell anybody who the preachers are and who the worship team's on. We've had enough personality-driven religion in America. We need God. Something of that message
sparked in them.
Sparked. And actually, literally, people from Kansas City, leaders here, actually came to that way back then. We didn't know one another at the time. Said, we felt as if we would miss the great revival at the end of the age if we didn't come. Something of a sound. So God's got to find somebody. And I was just a small company of people. And then in 1997, we began together, and we had 5 days gatherings, and 3 of them for fasting. Up to 4,500 kids would fast 3 days for stadiums to be filled with fasting, prayer, revival, asking God to fill stadiums with this thing. And so it was all preceded by this deep underground Nazarite consecration fathering movement. And so I think the answer is let's not be fooled by what's in the hearts of those kids. I think inside they are burning for
They're just hungry for something more.
And maybe they haven't been given that. Maybe they haven't been given the opportunity. But guys like yourself can light a match.